8 franchises will walk out of the 2026 NFL Draft as legitimate Super Bowl threats. And at least 3 teams that currently believe they're in that group are about to find out, brutally, that they're not. So let us set the stage properly. The 2026 NFL Draft is one of the most consequential in recent memory because of where the league currently stands. Several teams enter this draft already carrying the infrastructure to compete for a championship next season. A few more are 1 or 2 moves away from flipping the script entirely. And then there are the teams that will spend another year convincing themselves and their fan bases that they are building towards something, when in reality, the draft will only confirm how lost they truly are. We are breaking all of it down today. Let us start with the teams that walk into this draft already wearing Super Bowl contender status and whose draft strategy is essentially about not messing things up. The Philadelphia Eagles are the obvious headliner here. Coming off their Super Bowl run, the Eagles have built something that feels genuinely sustainable. Their offensive line remains elite, their skill position talent is legitimate, and their defensive core is young and hungry. What the Eagles need from this draft is depth and insurance. They are not desperate for a franchise-altering selection. They are shopping for quality role players who can step in immediately, which is actually the hardest thing to do well in the draft. Teams that are good at drafting depth win multiple championships. Teams that only hit on stars peak once and fade. The Eagles appear to understand this, and that gives them an edge heading into the season. The Detroit Lions are another team that enters this draft in a genuinely enviable position. Their culture has transformed completely over the past few years, and they now have a roster that competes on both sides of the ball with real physicality. The Lions have proven they can win in January, and this draft represents an opportunity to push them firmly into the upper tier of NFC contenders. If they can address any lingering questions on defense without sacrificing the offensive identity that makes them so dangerous, they could absolutely be a team making deep playoff noise in 2026 and potentially hearing their name called on the first Sunday in February 2027. Now, let us talk about the teams that could use this draft to leap into legitimate Super Bowl contention from a position just outside the conversation right now. This is where things get genuinely exciting. The Los Angeles Chargers have a young quarterback situation that could either accelerate or stall, depending entirely on what surrounds their signal caller. The right draft class could transform the Chargers from a team with potential into a team with power. Give that offense the weapons and give that defense the edge rusher it has been crying out for, and suddenly you are looking at a team that no one wants to see in the playoffs. The Minnesota Vikings are another franchise worth watching closely through this draft. They have shown flashes of the kind of team they want to be, but consistency has been their enemy. A targeted draft that addresses the defensive backfield and adds another playmaker on offense could be the thing that finally makes Minnesota a genuine threat rather than a pretender with good highlights. Draft well, and the Vikings push into the conversation. Draft poorly, and they remain exactly what they have been, a team that looks good until it really matters. The Green Bay Packers deserve a mention here too. Jordan Love is continuing to develop, and the window is genuinely opening for this franchise. Green Bay has a history of drafting exceptionally well, and if that tradition continues this year with a focus on weapons and defensive reinforcement, they could be pushing into that top tier of NFC contenders before the season is halfway done. This franchise knows how to build, and the 2026 draft could be the moment things click. Now we have to address the elephant in the room, the Kansas City Chiefs. 6 wins and 11 losses. For a franchise that went to the Super Bowl in what felt like consecutive decades, this is not just a down year. This is a seismic shift that requires honest evaluation. The dynasty question is not disrespectful. It is necessary. So let us actually answer it. Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes. That matters enormously and cannot be dismissed. Generational quarterbacks do not simply stop being generational. But the Chiefs spent the last several years operating on fumes from a talent construction standpoint, banking on Mahomes to manufacture magic from rosters that had significant holes. The NFL catches up, defenses scheme, coordinators study, and when the margin for error shrinks because of roster deficiencies, even the greatest quarterbacks in the game start losing games they would have won 2 years earlier. That is essentially what happened in Kansas City this past season. So can they recapture it? The answer is a conditional yes, and the condition is almost entirely tied to this draft and the offseason moves surrounding it. The Chiefs need to acknowledge, honestly, that they have roster problems that Mahomes cannot solve alone. They need pass catchers who can win against press coverage. They need an offensive line that can hold up in a four-quarter game against an elite defense. They need a pass rush that opposing offenses actually fear. If this draft delivers even two of those things at a legitimate level, Kansas City, with a healthy and motivated Mahomes, is not a team you write off. History tells us not to count out a quarterback of that caliber when the front office finally gives him help. But here is the harder truth. If the Chiefs enter the 2026 season with the same kinds of roster gaps they had this past year, the dynasty conversation shifts from past tense to official conclusion. A 6-11 team cannot simply will itself back to relevance without addressing structural problems. And the draft is where that either begins or where the window officially starts to close. Andy Reid and Brett Veach are smart football people. They have earned the benefit of the doubt. But benefit of the doubt has an expiration date, and that date is approaching. The Buffalo Bills, on the other hand, enter this draft in a position that makes their rivals genuinely uncomfortable. Josh Allen is playing some of the best football of his career. The supporting cast is strong, and the organizational commitment to winning now is clear. The Bills are the kind of team where a great draft pushes them from contender to favorite. They do not need a rebuild. They need a reload, and the talent available in this class gives them multiple avenues to do exactly that. If Buffalo hits on a couple of selections in the first two rounds, they could be the team holding the Lombardi Trophy when the 2026 season concludes. What you should be watching for as the draft unfolds is not just who gets picked, but the reasoning behind each selection. Teams that draft for need under pressure make worse decisions than teams that draft the best available talent with confidence. The franchises that enter draft day with a clear philosophy and the discipline to stick to it almost always outperform expectations. The ones that panic and reach for positions because of fan pressure or media noise almost always regret it by week 8. The 2026 NFL Draft is genuinely one of those events that feels like it matters in real time, because it actually does. The teams at the top need to stay disciplined. The teams on the rise need to be aggressive. The teams in rebuilds need to find a player who can anchor a culture. And Kansas City needs to find the version of themselves that made this league feel like it was playing for second place for nearly a decade. The dynasty may not be over, but it is absolutely on notice. And the next 72 hours of draft activity will tell us more about the next 3 years of Chiefs football than anything we saw during the regular season. Stay locked in on the picks, trust your evaluation over the highlight reels, and remember that championships are not built in one night, but they are absolutely shaped by them. The 2026 NFL Draft starts right now, and the league as we know it is about to change. Do not look away.